That's the worst I've ever seen. The epidemic of obesity, it's an untreated infection. Big Pharma knows, and they will not teach doctors this.
Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Kandi. If you haven't been here before, thank you for joining me on my journey. I wanted to do an update finally on my visit with Dr. Sean O'Mara and my visit to Minnesota and what transpired. So for those of you who do not know, Dr. Sean O'Mara is a health and performance specialist, and he takes MRI scans of your body in different spots and can read your visceral fat, the fat around your heart, and the fat that's marbled into your muscles, and that's called myosteatosis, when you have marbling inside your muscles. So he does do that, and he also has MRI scans of your brain to look at the vessels up there and the arteries and all that kind of stuff to see if there's any kind of blockages. So I did go and have 3 MRI scans done in Minnesota. And then after that, I traveled over to Dr. O'Mara's house, which his practice is in his house. And once I was there, he did speak to me about lots of different things. I will put some clips up of different things that he had talked about. He showed me some MRI scans of people that have visceral fat to see what it looks like, people that are pretty healthy that have very minimal visceral fat. He also showed me scans of people's muscles and what myosteatosis looks like and what the fat around your heart looks like. I went over to Dr. O'Mara's house immediately after getting my MRIs. So they sent the MRI scans to him digitally. He had not looked at them prior to my arriving, so I got to see his reaction the first time that he set his eyes on my MRIs. Now, I knew it was going to be bad. For those of you who do not know, I have spinal muscular atrophy type 3. And I have had symptoms basically my entire life, as far back as I can remember. I've always had trouble doing things physically and getting weak really fast upon exertion and getting muscle cramps, having trouble getting up from a seated position, especially the lower it is, the worse it is. Climbing steps is really hard for me. And as I've aged, it's gotten worse. So I just found out that I had spinal muscular atrophy it's going to be 3 years now. I'm going to be 50 in July. So it was about June 3 years ago that I found out. So I was almost 47 when I found out that I had this disease. Doctors had never diagnosed me when I was growing up. They just kind of brushed me off and said that, it was nothing and I was clumsy and I'd just grow out of it. So I finally decided to push for testing, and that's when I found out that I do have spinal muscular atrophy 3. It was a simple blood test that showed the results, so it was nothing even invasive that they had to do. It's just doctors never went out of their way to even look into it. So I knew my scans were going to be bad. Dr. O'Mara is not somebody that deals with spinal muscular atrophy. He has never seen or consulted with a patient that has spinal muscular atrophy for his program. I am the first, but I knew that he's not going to be able to cure me. I didn't go to Dr. Sean O'Mara to have a cure, because it's a genetic disease that I have. I'm missing a gene, so it's not something that's curable. But what I've been told is the treatment that I'm getting is supposed to slow down the progression. And it's a pretty invasive treatment. Every 4 months, I have to go and get a lumbar puncture, which is like a spinal tap. They put a needle through my spine and into my spinal cord, withdraw some fluid, and then shoot Spinraza into my spine. So there can be some pretty bad side effects as far as migraines and maybe a leakage in the spinal cord if it doesn't heal from the puncture. I've never, thank God, had any side effects so far, but I've been wondering, how do I even know that it's working? How can I be sure? Because they've never do any kind of testing. They've never even done a DEXA scan or a CT scan or anything like that to look at the health of my muscles. So I was very curious about that. And when I was watching, I was doing carnivore, and when I was watching different videos, I started seeing Dr. Sean O'Mara show up in these videos, and I seen that he was a health and performance specialist. So that piqued my curiosity. I seen that he did MRIs, and he was showing the scans in his videos and what the diseased muscle looks like and what visceral fat looks like. So I was very curious, and I thought, well, this is something that I can do that would show me the progression. So if I go to see him and get the scans, then I have a starting point, and I can implement his strategies as best as I can, and start eating the way he advocates for, and then get scans later on and see if there's been any improvement or if it's stable or what's going on. So at first he was showing me all these different scans of different people. He explained about why fermented foods is important, and how it improves your gut microbiome and how that would help to heal visceral fat as well. When visceral fat starts building up and it gets to a certain point, it can actually spread that fat out into your muscles at a more rapid rate. So I knew that I was going to have a lot of that fat marbling inside my muscles, because I've spent my whole life not being able to do certain exercises, or really any exercises, without feeling fatigued very quickly. So I kind of just gave up. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't realize the severity of what it would do to my muscles with the fat marbling going into them, especially dealing with spinal muscular atrophy. So when he pulled up my scans, he was very shocked. He had never seen scans that were as bad as mine. And this includes people that he had seen that was 450 pounds. My scans are the absolute worst scans, with the myosteatosis, which is the fat marbling again, the fat that's marbled in my muscles. It's the worst scans that he has seen. My muscles are super atrophied, very, very tiny, and full of fat.
All right, let's take a look at some good and bad. Compare, who's worse and who's better. This guy right away, when it comes to an MRI, you do not want to be mostly white. He's almost entirely white. When you see a lot of white, remember, the muscles are small, because the muscles shrink from all that inflammation, just causing the muscles to shrivel up. And so this guy is obese. He's filled with visceral fat. He's filled with deep subcutaneous fat. He's filled with fatty infiltrates of his musculature, and he's only 30 years old. So this guy already has had back surgery at the age of 30 and walks permanently with a cane, and he's only 30. This guy is 31. He is almost all dark, so he's almost all muscle. He does have a moderate amount of visceral fat that's elevated. He needs to get rid of it, but he's not as bad as this guy. So he's put down this visceral fat relatively soon. This guy is... All right, let's look at some more examples. This guy's filled with visceral fat, filled with deep subcutaneous fat. His muscles are filled with fat. And so when we scan his legs in proportion to his abdomen, his legs are filled with visceral fat. I mean, they're really ectopic fat, or what is myosteatosis. And I would call, human marbleization, I call this guy human Wagyu. I mean, it's really just like a Wagyu human legs going on with him. Now, this guy's just the opposite. See how big his muscles are? Yeah. These are the biggest muscles I've ever seen in a human being, in an abdomen. He has the healthiest abdominal scan of anybody I've seen. His visceral fat is that little bit right here. This fat here is called retroperitoneal fat, and it's actually associated with health. So if you're really healthy, you get this little retroperitoneal fat, and it's the first thing Native Americans would eat on a buffalo when they hunted it. So very big muscles because very little visceral fat. His muscles, because very little visceral fat, his muscles are just all dark. He doesn't have the white streaks that other people get. And his legs, look how lean his legs are, all beautiful muscle. and just in fantastically great shape. So you don't want to be like this. You want to be like this. All right, let's look at this 74-year-old and this 40-year-old. They have almost identical legs. So their muscles are free of fat. They're beautiful. These are their bones. And the white is fat, so that's bone marrow. The black is the bone itself, the cortex. And you can see how thick it is. But look at this 74-year-old. Look how thin their bones are. And the reason are as this, as the fatty infiltrates go into this muscle and start shrinking in visceral fat form, it thins bones. So it literally is destroying every cell in your body, including your bones. Yeah. You just think you're destined to it, to fall apart when you age. You're not. You're destined for greatness if you just know how to live. These are his scans when he came to me first, filled with visceral fat. I mean, a huge, enormous amount of visceral fat. And a big, big chunk of fat around his heart. And then a month and a half later, when he scanned, look how much he lost. And then another month and a half later, look how much he lost. So you literally change from the inside out when you do these strategies.
So.
Okay, so there's your right lung, left lung, and there's your heart. That's your aorta. These are your back muscles you're laying on, your sides, and this is your chest. So laying down in the scanner, your head is this direction, your feet are this direction. So we're just going to scan down, and we're going to track cardiac fat.
Ooh, look at that. I got some there.
Yeah, you do. You have a little bit more than I thought, actually. So you can see that now it's going all the way around your heart. And we're still up pretty high. And it's going to get thicker as we get down lower. So you have kind of an alarming amount already for your level. My God, super alarming. Look at your muscles.
Yeah, see? I told him he's going to... Now you know why I have a hard time. I got like little tiny baby muscles with a lot of fat.
I'll put it this way. You have like almost no muscle left in there.
Mm-hmm.
And where's that at?
This is right at the level of our heart, right here. So,
and the muscle that you're looking at, where's that?
Right here
or something?
Remember how
Just
dark?
like right here?
Oh, yeah, these are in the back, your flanks. So the heart
okay.
is here. They'd be kind of in her back muscles.
Mm.
So you must, my God. But, gosh. So you really got a lot of heart fat, myosteatosis. So I know, and we're still getting thicker. Mm-hmm. You have an enormous amount of heart fat, and we haven't got to the worst part yet. Look how thick that is.
I told you.
Big chunk of.
Well, no, I'm not looking at the muscle. I'm looking at the around your heart.
Yeah, big chunk of fat all around your heart, and your muscles are just like
non-existent.
Yeah.
See, how do I walk?
And then around the back.
All right, we're gonna scan down. We'll keep tracking. Now we're into your abdomen. So visceral fat, spleen, liver. God, your muscles are just...
Can you imagine how much worse it looked before I started eating mostly meat?
Yeah. My God. And look, so big chunk of visceral fat emerging.
Mm-hmm. What's that dark spot in the middle?
Colon. Right here. Colon. This is your aorta. Liver. Still part of your lungs showing up in your back. Gosh. So remember those dark muscles? They're just, you're mostly fat, inflammatory fat in there. spleen, kidney coming in view now. Lower portion of your liver. You look like you got a lot of kidneys or gallstones in your gallbladder.
I've never had problems with it.
Well, you look like you got tons of them in there.
I wonder why. I wonder if they'll just break up, you think?
Well, they can be absorbed, if you stop carbohydrates, stop eating processed foods. When did you go carnivore?
Well, I've been doing it off and on, but then I went back in January.
Okay.
But I still sometimes eat a little bit of, like yesterday I had a salad. There's just was not a lot of options, so I had a salad with meat on it. But I haven't eaten any like sugar or anything.
Okay.
Well,
these would be years in the making. They're not something that just suddenly popped up. So this is all probably decades carbohydrates that you had previously. Because you were heavy. You were 200. So these stones formed, decades ago. But we'll watch them repeat them. I know that radiologist is going to comment on those gallstones. That's like that's a big gallbladder with a lot of stones in it. And just look at all that visceral fat that you have in there, surrounding all your beautiful organs. So you can begin to see why you may have constipation. All that visceral fat around your colon. And in the alpha plane, we scan down lower and do your female reproductive tract and your rectum. We would see fat, inflammatory visceral fat surrounding your rectum and just causing paralysis, inflammation in your rectum just won't work, leading to constipation. So, but just you're mostly visceral fat inside of you. And your muscles are mostly fat. That's the worst fatty infiltration of muscles. I mean, look at your back. That's the worst I've ever seen. I'm going to be so pissed off at these doctors if we reverse this, get rid of this visceral fat, and this goes away. I'm going to rage on them because how they are ignoring this is unbelievable. Would you mind if I use these images to teach other people and do?
I kind of felt. I was like, he's gonna see some shit.
Yeah,
you can use them. Yeah, for sure.
See some shit. That's right.
Yeah, it's fine.
I won't identify who you are. Just use the images and talk about SMA and visceral fat and myosteatosis and why you want to be aware of this. Oh my God.
I'm looking like Wagyu.
Well, the bone's not.
But I have
I mean, it's the only actually good thing we can say there is that
the bone.
Yeah.
And the marrow.
Well, that may explain why I've never broken a bone.
But now you know why Kandi is weak, going up those steps. I mean, you knew it from pathology, but now you're seeing it.
Yeah.
I want to so help you. All right, are you in? You're gonna do everything you can here?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
It's horrible.
I'm super inspired by seeing this. I knew you were going to be elevated, but I had no idea. But this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Because I want chronic disease to go away. And I don't want to just keep treating it. I want to reverse it. So let's...
Well, you got good bones, so you got to start.
That's you got to find a silver lining there.
I'm going to start from the core up. You got good bones, babe.
Okay.
All right, so your posterior circulation, you have a dominant posterior artery on your left side compared to your right. You can see the circumference is a lot smaller. But I'm not seeing a huge amount of, and you have collateral blood flow to make up for that. But I'm not seeing any major plaques, but it does look like you may have some disease right there. Do you see that? So it's segmental disease, good blood flow, good. Then it's disease and then compromise there. And maybe on this side too, kind of at the bifurcation, we tend to see a little more disease. And maybe right back in that area here. But no, you're still a young lady, so you're only 49. We typically don't see atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease until people get into their 50s, usually late 50s and stuff. So, overall, not too bad. But I would like to see, and we do see this, when clients get rid of their visceral fat, those segments open up. They just go white. So we'll watch this. This scan I would probably repeat maybe in a year. Your money right now is going to be, I wouldn't even repeat your legs. Myosteatosis is the slowest biomarker to change. Okay. Heart fat, visceral fat, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, those will reverse faster. So we'll keep it simple. We'll just scan your abdomen. All right, so let's start with this. Is the most interesting and the most important study, in my opinion, I've ever seen in science. They take these two mice and they clone them from a single strand of DNA. So they're more identical than monozygotic identical human twins. These things are just cloned. They're perfectly normal. And for the purpose of the study, they wanted to make sure there was no difference in the mice. So they used cloned mice. And they wanted to make sure there was no difference in anything else. So they put them in the same environment, same temperature, same lighting, same schedule, same feeding, same food, same quantity, same calories. No difference. But then they introduced microbes into these mice, different microbes. One set of microbes came from a human that was fit, who was very athletic, did a lot of sports, and ate clean, did not eat processed foods. The other came from his identical twin, who was raised separately, who just did the opposite. Never played sports, ate processed foods, and was overweight and very unhealthy. So feces went from the unhealthy twin into one mouse. Feces from the healthy twin went into the other mouse. Then they continued to feed them exactly the same way. So this is what happened.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Then they took feces from the fit twin, and they put it back into that heavyset mouse. Didn't change its diet, and it turned it back normal. So let me fill in the blanks for you. The epidemic of obesity literally is an epidemic. It's an untreated infection. Big Pharma knows, and they will not teach doctors this. All the doctors you've gone to when you were that heavyset teenager and younger were not aware that you simply were infected. And you never got really well because nobody treated the underlying infection. They went and did a surgical procedure on you to mechanically obstruct you from eating. But the truth was, Kandi, you just had an infection in you. All you needed to do was treat the infection. Every time you craved bad food, it wasn't you. It's literally microbes inside you, driving the hose to feed them. Humans have the only macronutrient requirement is fat and protein. There are certain species of microbes that need sugar. If they don't get it, they die. They want to live as much as you do. Here's the interesting thing. They lived. They existed before humans did. They evolved way before humans. They lived in other species and they migrated into our species. They motivate, control, and influence the host to eat for them. They have to. They can't leave you. And this is how they get rid of visceral fat. They stop the cravings and they end the insanity of obesity. And it works every single time. You stop feeding these microbes, they die. You say, well, I've stopped carbohydrates for a while, but then it always comes back. Do you know why? Because these microbes are all over. Every single day, they're reinfecting you. When you go to Walmart, you touch a shopping cart, you ride in a rental car, you touch an elevator button, you touch your escalator handrail. Every surface is infected with these obesogenic microbes, obesity-generating microbes. They're carbohydrate dependent. So how do you keep yourself from getting infected? Well, you can't keep yourself from getting these things inside you, but you can keep them from growing again. So the way you keep them from growing inside of you again is you eat fermented foods. When you eat these fermented foods, microbes are opportunistic. They fight for real estate, they fight for territory, they fight for resources. And if you just keep eating fermented foods in your gut, you'll keep yourself from getting these cravings again. You will have no more cravings for anything bad. Sugar, sweet, chips, whatever it is that drives you insane that you want to eat.
That would be good. Yeah.
You just stop feeding them, and you eat these ferments every single day. You must eat these things. These microbes are far more intelligent than we understand. Do not discount these microbes. They influence, they talk to you. The interesting thing is you think it's you. I'm thinking about that girl, Kandi, when you were in your teenage years and your 20s and you were so frustrated, that heavy girl. And you kept eating stuff that you knew you shouldn't eat, and you couldn't stop it. It wasn't your fault. It's these microbes convince you that you're going to die if you don't eat that. And the cravings drive you insane. The truth is you will thrive without those carbohydrates. You will actually excel and do way better. This is killing hundreds of millions of people. Billions. So before I rest, first stage is cure this problem. The second is go after the SOBs that did this and causing all of us to suffer. So when it comes to fermented foods, your microbiome is completely disrupted. You got all these disease-causing microbes inside of you, causing obesity, causing pathogenicity, and they're just driving you insane. So you need to get more ferments into you. Suboptimal client will go get 1 jar of ferments and think they're going to turn their gut around with 1 jar. A good client will go get 10, but a great client that's enlightened will go get 20. You don't want 20 jars of the same sauerkraut. You want to have 20 different types, variety. Very, very small amounts, but you want a diversity. So your meals...
So we're going to be looking at the bacteria that's in the food.
You don't even have to look at the bacteria. You just get variety.
Of different food.
Different fermented foods.
Okay. Because we did buy some, but then when I got them in, it was like, we bought a variety.
Okay,
and
good.
It was like, a lot of these had the same type of bacteria in it. So I'm like, am I doing it any good?
Yeah, no, you are.
Okay.
Because they'll all be different batches. And believe it or not, there'll be bacteria in there that they just didn't speciate.
Okay.
So, but what you want to do is, I'll show you this picture. When you go to a food co-op near me, when you get back to your place near Ontario, these are all the variety of them. But you see, some of these have like Minnesota labels on. A lot of these are local ferments.
Okay.
So every time you guys travel, you want to go and collect microbes from that region.
Since I've gotten home from seeing Dr. O'Mara, I have started implementing his program. So I am eating grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And with every meal, I am including ferments. I'm including just a teeny tiny bit of different varieties of ferments. I did ask him about the specific name of the bacteria that's in each ferment and if that matters. He said no, that even though there's, let's say L. reuteri is listed as the bacteria, there are still a multitude of different types of bacteria in the food. So he suggested getting local grown organic foods that are made into ferments from a local food co-op. I looked in my area and I do not see any food co-ops in my area. I'm gonna have to go to a farmer's market on a Sunday or a Saturday sometime when they have them in our area to see if anybody has ferments that they make out of their local vegetables. It does suggest eating at least 20 varieties of ferments. You don't have to eat all 20 in one sitting. You can rotate them throughout the week. Just getting a good variety each time you eat, just a teeny tiny bit of fermented foods with every bite of meat. So I have ordered my ferments online because I cannot find a large variety. I've went to Sprouts and Grocery Outlet and Costco and Sam's Club, and I have found different varieties each place I went. So I've picked up what I could, but I've also ordered online and I'm going to have them delivered. So I am eating the fermented foods with every meal. And he does also suggest that we fast. I have not started the fasting yet. I'm just focusing on getting that bacteria in. And I've also started fermenting my own food. So I have about 4 jars right now going of cauliflower. It's a mixture of cauliflower, broccoli, garlic, dill, and some ginger. I have those going right now. And yesterday I went to the store. I picked up some organic vegetables. So I picked up, radishes, onions, carrots, and I'm going to start those ferments in the next couple days. So my goal is to get my hands on experience with fermenting, get it down pat so that I can make my own instead of having to buy them. It's much more cost effective and you control the ingredients that you put in the ferment. So another thing that he also suggests is to do the exercises that work your fast twitch muscles. So I discussed it with him, and because I cannot run due to my SMA, I'm unable to sprint, which is what he says is the best form of exercise. I did buy a recumbent bike. So I have it in the back room and I will go back there and pedal as fast as I can for a minute at a time and just do that periodically throughout the day. He also suggests saunas. So saunas have great, amazing benefits. He explained them all to me, and he said it would help reduce the visceral fat. So I don't have a sauna. I have a sauna blanket that I'm using for right now. It only goes up to like 140 degrees, but that's what I have. So that's what I'm using. But I did buy a sauna, and that is on its way. It's about 4 to 6 weeks out right now. So when that gets here, it will be built and put into my garage. The type of sauna that he recommends is not the infrared or far infrared saunas. It is the steam sauna. So he suggests to go in there about 15 minutes several times a week, and it's the absolute best if you can do it every day. So I bought a 3-person sauna, and it is the steam sauna. I got it from Costco, and it was the best price that I could find. Unfortunately, the only bad thing is my husband will have to put it together when it arrives. So I will have to rely on him to do that. And then I'll have to hire an electrician to put a 220 plug in the garage where it's going to go. So until I get my steam sauna in, I'm just going to continue to use my sauna blanket. It's a Sharper Image one that I bought years ago. I'm not going to put the whole consultation that I had with Dr. O'Mara in this video because I was there for probably 4 hours. So it's a lot of information that he gave me. And I do suggest you guys go visit his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter. He's on many different platforms. You could go to his website. I will put links to his YouTube channel down below, and you go check him out. He has a lot of great information. And so we will see how this goes. To break down some of the major changes that I have made since seeing Dr. O'Mara is going to be grass-fed, grass-finished beef, the exercise bike that I've started implementing, and the steam sauna, which for now I'm doing the sauna blanket. But those are the 3 major changes that I've made. Oh, and the fermented foods. I know I had added some, in the beginning of the year, and then I kind of laxed a little bit, but I'm really sticking to it. And whatever I eat, I am putting some ferments in my mouth at the same time, and I'm increasing the variety of ferments. Also, I have started drinking electrolytes. He did suggest a brand called Fasting Electrolytes, and I've always kind of hated the salty taste of electrolytes, so I kind of steered clear of them. Every once in a while I put a little bit of, the keto chow drops into my water, but never a full serving because I didn't want that taste. Well, I haven't been using a full scoop of these, but I use about 1/4 of a scoop in my cup of water, and it's actually really good. They're called Fasting Electrolytes. It's a powder. It dissolves really easily. And along with the Fasting Electrolytes, I'm putting a couple drops of apple cider vinegar in the water as well. So that, to me, I thought that it was going to be horrible because I've done shots of apple cider vinegar years ago when I heard the benefits of apple cider vinegar, and it just grossed me out to no end. I thought that I could not do apple cider vinegar anymore, but it just so happens that just a few drops in that cup of water, a 16-ounce glass of water, is good, and it doesn't taste horrible, and it actually kind of tastes sweet to me. I don't know if it's the electrolytes or if it's the apple cider vinegar or a combination of both, but it has a slight sweet taste. One more thing, I am not drinking seltzer waters anymore. Because of the natural flavorings that is listed on the ingredient, even though it doesn't have sugar, we don't know what that natural flavoring is. So I'm drinking Pellegrino, but just the plain kind. So any kind of sparkling mineral water that's plain is fine. And I'm drinking distilled water that I'm adding the minerals back into. The Pellegrino I purchased yesterday, I did not purchase in the plastic containers like I always used to. I now have went to the glass bottles, so I've changed that. So these are some of the things I'm implementing. I'm gonna be curious to see if there's been any changes at all in my visceral fat when I go to see him next time. This will be the first time, like I said, I've ever had any kind of measurement to see the health of my muscles or anything, and now I know that I'm fighting a battle. I have to really do everything that I can to make my muscles healthier, and because SMA is fighting against me, I have to really buckle down and do everything that I can to see if I even stand a chance to walk until I'm 80 or even live that long. So we will see, but I will keep y'all informed, let you know how it's going. And also, I was 191.6 pounds when I went to see Dr. O'Mara. And then as of yesterday morning, I was 184.8. So what is that, 7 pounds? Something like that. Almost 7 pounds that I've lost since doing these strategies. Mostly carnivore, but eating a little bit of fermented foods. So I do have a video where I put my daily foods that I have been eating and just did a quick explanation and screenshot of everything so you can see it's just a little bit of ferments, and I'm actually doing less ferments now. I don't know if my piles were too big, but it doesn't seem to have bothered me, but I don't want to overeat them. I just want to eat a little bit, just enough to get my microbiome to start being more healthy and to start helping me erase my visceral fat and the fat around my heart. So another thing that Dr. O'Mara had noticed was my gallbladder is full of gallstones. I've never had any kind of, I've never had any symptoms of having gallstones, but I will say I've always lost weight really slow, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. He said he's sure that those gallstones are years and years in the making, and they don't just happen overnight. So I know I did read that diet soda and caffeine is a culprit of gallstones, creating gallstones, and I was a caffeine addict. I'm no longer drinking it. I did go back for a bit and started drinking my diet sodas and diet energy drinks again after I had quit earlier this year, but that's out. So all I'm drinking is water and sparkling mineral water with no flavor. So that is what I'm doing. So I hope you will follow along my journey and see where this takes me. Hopefully I have some good news for you after my next scan. We'll do some comparisons and put the scans side by side so that we can see what I'm dealing with and if there's been any improvement the next time I get my scans. So hope to see you here next time, and until then, stop eating processed foods.